So welcome back to the Sheer Brilliance podcast, where we're here to talk about the Knicks. Now, Knicks Twitter is on fire today. Knicks Twitter was on fire last night. After the game versus Detroit, man, game of two halves, there was a lot to be said. Now, we both know it is a little bit crazy. It's been a little bit nerve-wracking, but we all, as Knicks fans, we're here for it, all right? Man, that first half versus the G League team, unacceptable. Come on, man. Completely unacceptable. We all know it was unacceptable. Shout out to Mobb Deep, Obi Toppin, Taj Gibson, IQ, Grimes, Quick, McBride, Mobb Deep. Listen, they came through. Funny, on Twitter, I was saying, listen, I know that Mobb Deep, I know that the bench be washing our starters. Washing them. I know this to be true. And it's funny because on Twitter, a lot of people agree. A lot of people was just like, yeah, I feel that. I understand that. I feel that. Other people was just like, listen, man, I don't think so. You know, we would have heard about it. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing if these cats are getting washed in practice. Because ultimately what will happen is they're pushing them to be better. Being a fan of the Knicks team in the 90s, man, we used to hear about that all the time. And you heard about it on the Last Dance documentary when he was just like, yo, listen, in practice, you know, they will go so hard in practice. Injuries, you know, you heard about Steve Kerr getting punched in the face by Mike. All of that was, if you're willing to go to battle with each other in practice, then other teams in the league don't stand a chance. So that's what we want. But it's stating the obvious. There are a couple of things about our bench unit that absolutely stood out. Last night, our bench unit was better than both starting fives on the floor and the other team's bench. They clearly were better than every other unit that evening. Okay? And they were better for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, their energy was unreal. When they walked onto the court in the third quarter, we were down, man. By the time they left, we all felt it. We felt it slipping away. We felt that lead grow up. And it's funny because during the game, I was like, yo, we're going to win by 10. I had the feeling, I just didn't know how we were going to do it. But, man, when that bench unit checked in, a couple of things stood out about them. You could see it on their faces. Like it's almost like they had a brief huddle that they were saying, listen, we got to do this again. You know what we're here for. Let's get it done. They stepped out of there. Several things stood out. Their confidence stood out. They were comfortable with each other. They were sure about themselves. They were organized. All of those things. It seemed like they weren't rattled. They knew exactly where they needed to be. And it takes me back to the beginning of the season, because at the beginning of the season, Derrick Rose used to always be interviewed when the bench would have a good game. And everybody be like, yo, listen, man, like, what's the secret? The second unit is the best in the league, this, that, and the third. And you know, D Rose is going to give it up to the team like Alec Burks did last night, like Taj Gibson did last night as well. But D Rose was just like, you know what, listen, man, we have a year under our belt. You know, we've been tested in the playoffs, and we've grown accustomed to playing together. You know, the starters are going to figure it out as well. There's some new people in the starting lineup, and so it takes some time, but we all are a team. It's a team effort. Well, I would buy that at the beginning of the season. But now you have seamlessly incorporated Quentin Grimes and Miles McBride, our future starting point and two guard. And it should be our present starting point and two guard, but that's another conversation. So you seamlessly incorporated them and haven't skipped a beat. So what's the excuse? What's the reason? And the one thing, and it's funny because I try not to listen to too many other of my fellow, Knicks friends and, on the internet and some of their channels, man, because they make a great point. And I'm going to give it to Raw Hebrew Remnant, man. Like, listen, bro. Yeah, I think I'm your spirit human, bro. I think we are twins in some way, shape, or form, because every point you made were points that I was thinking of during the game. But something that stood out to me about our starting unit and the lack of cohesion is, I don't know, man, just the vibe between Julius and Kimba is much better now. So I don't want to say it's so present now. But when Kimba first came, I think Julius was just like, man, I really have to establish myself. He is a respected veteran across the league. Everybody is talking about him and in good ways, and you know what Kimba's capable of doing, but also Kimba's a hometown kid. And there's something to be said about that. I've said this in past videos. When there was no stars who wanted to come to the Knicks, right? And people were crapping on us about the city and the fans and nobody wants to play there and James Dolan. So crazy, man. We haven't heard a drop. We haven't heard a pin drop about James Dolan. But I don't want to get off course. So when people were talking about, oh, there's no superstars and there's no free agents who will come to New York, the reason I kept thinking of was you have to be from New York to want to have that desire to represent this city. And where the Knicks began getting it right was they started going out and started getting people who were from New York, who took just being here to represent seriously. And then they were committed to turning around. So when they went out and got Taj, that was a great look. When they went out and they drafted Obi, that was a great look. Because you had those cats who were willing to wear, Obi was crying at the draft. He was like, I promise I'm not going to let my city, I'm not going to let this opportunity pass. That passion, bro. And then now you have, and somebody like Kimba from afar is looking at it like, damn, I wish, I could come back and rep my city. So first and foremost, in order to get the eyes of the new cats who are talented, but they're from other places across the country, around the world, they don't have that affinity for New York. All they see is spotlight, stress, criticism, and they shy away from that. You got to be built for this moment. So now, when you started getting those cats who are from the city, who are from New York, to come back, and you started winning a little bit, then any of those other players, who are not even from here, but they can connect with that energy that comes with being from New York, then now they're open to playing. And the second thing that solves all ills is winning. So first and foremost, when you got a Grimes, when you got a McBride, those cats, their energy is real New York. IQ, his energy is like bubbly and it's like New York. Mitch, you know what I mean? Like that defensive presence and the way he plays, that's New York. So I just want to kind of say that first and foremost, when that bench mob comes on the court, the energy is just like, all this stuff y'all doing is about to stop. And that's how they took over the game yesterday. When they got in, they were just like, listen, I don't know what y'all was doing to big bros, but they were a little bit tired, you know what I mean? But we ain't running that way here. We're going to stop. We're going to push y'all around. We're going to control this game. And ultimately, that's what was happening. So shout out to Alec, Burks and the bench mob. And once again, I just want to kind of go back to the end of the game. One thing I absolutely love about my team is the different levels and dimensions of the game that us fans really appreciate. And this is why they say we have the most knowledgeable fan base in sports, because our attention isn't just a tip-off and doesn't end at the buzzer. We watch post-game interviews. We watch post-game, in-game interviews. We look at YouTube. Like, listen, it never stops for us. And something that I was really, really, I really loved was after the game, they interviewed Alec Burks. And he was just talking about, they said, listen, what is it about this bench unit, man? Y'all come in, stranglehold on the game, whatever they said. I'm paraphrasing. But Alec Burks was just like, listen, man, we come in, we do our job. Once again, I'm paraphrasing. But he gave a shout out. He was just like, we're just consistent, with, our leader, Derrick Rose, who ain't here. And it's so funny because I'm like, it was just the opposite a few games back when I pointed out that Julius was like, yeah, me and Kimba, the heart and soul of the team. You know what I mean? You're supposed to say that and he is put out there as our leader. And he's been talented. And he is talented. Julius is better than a lot of people in the league. You know what I mean? I don't want to take that away from him. Everybody knows, who are Knicks fans probably get the impression I'm not the biggest Julius fan. I'm a big fan of how he came back after his rocky first year. But it's so many things about, I don't know, man. It's something about him. I just really feel as if we need our best player on the team should be a player whose talent and skill level matches the energy so that everybody else on the team can follow and the city can follow. All right. It's a lot of pressure playing in New York. He's handled it well, but he is a number 3 on a good team in the league. You know what I mean? On a title contending team. He's a number 3, and there's nothing wrong with that. But it just seems like we keep pushing him as a number 1. But, man, when Alec Burks said that, I'm like, yo, D. Rose has been the heart and soul of the team. And since he came back, it was just like, yo, his attitude shifted. Because when he first left New York, I don't want to keep going back to old things, but when he first left New York, yo, it was almost like, I don't know, peace, bro. You know what I mean? At both ways. He said that to us. It's just like, yo, I can't wait to get out of here. We were just like, yo, can't wait for you to get out of here. But when he came back, he was just like all in. So that's something that we appreciate. But the other piece, man, though Julius gave Kimba that shout out for that moment the other day after the game, I think that's been one of the biggest challenges. When Kimba first came and they started playing, one thing I noticed was it's almost like Julius is very comfortable with the ball consistently being run through him. With the game being run through him, he needs the ball in his hands. So when Kimba comes along, as a point guard, that began to shift, and it seemed to throw Julius off a little bit. And then when there's a little bit of inconsistency and disorientation with the way we're playing as a first unit, then Julius can say, listen, I need the ball in my hands. So there were little moments, man. I watch body language. That's something I'm skilled at personally, professionally, and also in watching sports. And looking and trying to determine body language. What does that mean? You see this little slight. Why don't they ever talk on the court? And for a few games at the beginning of the season, you rarely saw them engage. You know what I mean? It was like always going to the timeout and then they'll walk in separate ways. You know what I mean? So I would watch that. I would see the same thing with him, Julius, and Fournier. And I'm like, yo, what's up with that, man? Everybody else high-fiving, dapping, take a little moments to talk, whatever have you. But Julius, nah. It just seemed like the only engagement is within the huddle. But when they're on the floor, they don't really kind of engage, you know what I mean, side by side, talk it through. So something that I noticed about that as well. So ultimately, I think it's a gift and a curse when it comes to this safety protocol. You know what I mean? Obviously, you want the best of health to Julius and his family, and to any of our players, any players in the NBA who are in health and safety protocols, man. We're all battling this virus together as a world, and it just seems to be getting a little bit worse than it is getting better. So prayers and blessings for a speedy healing recovery, you know what I mean, to those guys. But what will happen is it'll provide an opportunity, and as Raw Hebrew Remnant mentioned a little bit earlier, and my boy Noah on Clutch B-Ball TV had a phenomenal video. Go check his channel out. Go check his video out. He does great work, both him and Raw Hebrew Remnant. They talked a little bit about the opportunity that is going to be presented to other players come Friday. So, Obi Toppin, I am hoping, I am praying that Tibbs gives Obi an opportunity to sit in that power forward spot and start the game on Friday. All right. The other piece is, I think you should put McBride at the point guard. I've been saying on my Knicks shorts that McBride is the point guard of the future, and that Grimes is the two guard of the future. We already have our 1 and our 2. And it's something I love about Knicks fans, man. We're so on the same page at many points that I think our answers are on our team. We just have to put them into place and then absorb the bumps and the bruises that go along with them getting used to it and developing. But I think our starting point guard is McBride. I think our starting 2 guard is Grimes. Our 3 is RJ for now. So I don't even want to get into that. But our 3 is RJ. Our 4 is Julius. And then our 5 is Mitch. Ultimately, that's that. I'm like, let's roll with that. And because if we have any doubts about our defensive presence, I believe it's solved with that unit. You know what I mean? I'm also, once again, curious about what this trade deadline looks like. Obi is a starter somewhere. Obi is a starter somewhere. So I'm going to leave that at that. But I think Friday, opportunities will be abound. And it's going to be an opportunity to see what these young players do as they step up and step into these roles. I think it also gives Julius an opportunity to take a break and take care of his body physically, mentally, spiritually, and emotionally. But I think for this break, it's a gift and a curse. The gift is all of those things that I just mentioned. The curse is that he's going to have an opportunity to watch on television his teammates play. And he'll be able to see the inconsistency or the cohesion. Something else that's a curse is that he's going to be able to hear the commentary. And the commentary, our commentary team does a great job of not only reading the game and commenting and analyzing the game, but also now recently they've been incorporating what some of the fans have been saying as well. I don't know if that's the best thing for Julius to hear. Also, another con to him being in health and safety protocols is social media. Now he'll have an opportunity to engage in what that conversation looks like. He'll say he doesn't pay attention to it. Every NBA player pays attention to it. So he will be listening to what Knicks fans are saying. Or his friends will be forwarding to him the conversations about what Knicks Nation is saying. And there's nothing else wrong with it but it being true. He can't argue with any of it. But the one thing I'm concerned about is just how do we come together? How do we come together and move forward? We have to start winning some games. This nice little 3-game stretch is a start. But man, we're not going to make any noise if we're not together. And if our team doesn't have their roles in place. I do think we're going to make moves at the trade deadline. And I think they're going to be major moves that are made. Me personally, I'm a De'Aaron Fox fan. I've been saying it. I was mad that he signed his extension because I wanted to make a play for him. But I know that he is on the Knicks' radar. But first and foremost, and most importantly, Leon Rose and them, they have to do their job. So I'm just curious. Right now, there's a lot that may be taking place that we don't know about. But to wrap this video up, there is an opportunity for us to see what it is that we have. Who steps up? I made this comment on Twitter, and I will leave it at this as well. Tom Thibodeau, we can always talk about what he should do or what he shouldn't do. But when you are in a position of leadership, as he is as the head coach, every decision is a tough decision. All right? And it's magnified because he is a public figure of a public team, national television, with Knicks fans as the people critiquing you. So that's not easy. But it's Leon Rose's job to try and make his decisions easier by putting talented people in this lineup. But until Leon Rose is able to do so, then Tibbs, this is what you get paid the big bucks for. So you need to figure some things out. But overall, I'm just happy that we do have a little bit of a winning streak. I'm looking forward to these games being played and seeing our young cats tear stuff up. But man, our starters, we got to get it together. So I'm going to continue to follow all of the conversations. Knicks Nation, yo, just be patient. I know. I'm one of like everybody saying be patient, but we do got to be patient. We do have moments where we can kind of jump over the edge. And that's because we see things that are just so obvious. And I tried to make it my business specifically not to talk about Julius's play, not to talk about him being checked in or checked out, because at the end of the day, he's ours until he's not. You know, and as frustrating as that may be, it's on Tibbs to figure it out. So let's keep grinding. Let's keep paying attention. Let's keep holding our team and each other accountable. But most importantly, let's enjoy this journey. Let's hope that we get back to where it is that we need to be and we turn this thing around soon. So check me out on the Brilliance YouTube channel. Go on YouTube. I need some follows. I know I'm a little bit early. My content is early, but we're building it up. Also, follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter. SHIR.Brilliance. Sheer Brilliance. My name is Sheer, but you can call me Sheer. And let's go Knicks.